bring in former FBI Special Agent and Navy SEAL Jonathan Gilliam. Jonathan, we are still less than 24 hours from this shooting. What are investigators doing literally as we speak right now?
Well, right now they're probably combing through the evidence to try to figure out what the motivation was here. But with somebody who has mental illness, you're not the motivation may be completely unbased or based in false reality. So you know, when you have these types of attacks, the investigation is really to put the pieces together. It's also, of course, to find out if there was any other association with anybody who may have helped plan this and where the guns came from and so on and so forth, the details of the investigation. But unfortunately, in a situation like this, it's really just putting the pieces together for the families and so they can close this case. There's not going to be anything that comes out of this as far as prosecution goes.
Yeah, I mean, and that leaves the question, who's going to be held responsible as far as getting justice for these lives lost and these families that are affected. I understand the manifesto is going to be key in trying to put the pieces together in this plot that was planned by this person. But, you know, Jonathan, I want to go to these text messages because this shooter, a friend of the shooter, said that she had reached out that morning saying that she was going to die today. There's a couple of ways this can go, but I want to go this route. You know, she said, you're probably going to hear this on the news after I die. How much of a role does the media play in this? Obviously, we have to cover it, but it was really troublesome to see that she said, you're going to see this on the news.
Right. Well, so, you know, this is the reality with this is that these people that are doing these types of overt actions are typically either trying to show that they are dominant, which we've seen in the case of many of the people before, or they have no longer have the will to live, and they want to force someone else to kill them. But in some of these cases, such as these where there's mass shooting going on, I think there's much deeper issues going on here. And the hatred, they have a hatred. At some point, they have confusion in their mind. And not only do they want to die, but there's something in there that is also pushing them to kill others. And I have to tell you, this is not just a tragedy. This is something that we're seeing reoccurring. I was doing my research to come on here, and it is a fact that the majority of school shooters and mass shooters that we've had in the recent history in this nation are all people who have sexual identity dysfunctions. And the medical industry will no longer diagnose people with these dysfunctions. They now classify these people as having medical conditions. And this is a problem because people are growing up playing video games, which this person was a video game fanatic. They do not understand who they are or what their gender or sexuality is because of the way that society has changed. I'm reading the stories that are out in the media, and I can't even tell if this person was a transgender male or transgender woman. It's being reported that it was a woman, but when the police actually put out the press notifications, they were saying that they identified this person from their car and calling them a male. But when you go to LinkedIn, it's saying that it's a he, or a he, him. So there's such confusion in people now that we have psychological issues that are just beyond schizophrenic, and we're supporting these things, and it's causing mass confusion to the point that people are going out and killing. Until we start looking at this for the reality of what it is, we are going to continue to have these types of attacks.
There are so many questions to your point, Jonathan.
Thing is just like, you know, they're getting the operation. Some of them are getting their reproductive organs removed. Okay. And the confusion, the chemicals, for alteration, all of that plays a part on the psyche. And, you know, some may want to detransition and they can't. And this is where they could go nuts. There are doctors who are trying to save people from going through this route, and they were fired or threatened that if you try to help the person, you try to tell them that they don't need this surgery, you will lose your license to practice. This is also the result, these shootings. Some people may unalive themselves, and other people will do this.
That experts really need to provide us answers on, and they need to get in the trenches with these individuals to give those individuals answers, to give them help. You heard Congressman Burchett's comment there in Jackie Ibanez's piece. I think that is so crucial at a time right now. It's not about demonizing certain segments of our society. We are all humans. It's about getting our fellow humans the help that they need. And speaking of help, I want to.
The problem is you can't give them the help unless you get to the root of the problem. And you can't help them if you care too much about their feelings versus giving them the help, even though they don't like it. Medicine is not to taste good. Its main function is to cure what is ailing you, to solve the problem. So if it hurts your feelings, so what? It is helping you. It is to help you. And to help these people is to say you were born, assigned the gender that you were born with by God. Period. Okay? I'm going to read this. Romans, okay? Chapter 1, verse 28. Okay? And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them up to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient. Okay. And further on, it will say that, and men burning lust for one another, and they did things that they would do with a woman. Okay. And women, the same thing, burning lust for one another. Okay. Receiving the due punishment. Okay. There is no other way around it. All right. I read another one. Romans chapter 8, verse 36. As it is written, for thy sake. I'm sorry. I'm going to read this one first. I'm sorry. Okay. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4. Okay. In whom the God of this world, the devil, has blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine upon them. Okay. They're blind by the God of this world, the devil, who's telling them that if you have these feelings, you could change your gender. Okay. Never mind the fact that there are repercussions for that, consequences. Never mind the fact that, there are some irreversible changes. Okay. And you're just going to have to live with that. And some of them can't live with that. Okay. And they got to deal with that for the rest of their lives. All right. But the only way to get this, to solve this problem, is to stand firm and to fight against the rainbow community. The only way is by telling the truth in love, that what you're doing is wrong. Okay. What you're doing is trying to go for kids. What you're doing is not helping. It is hurting. Okay. And you are suffering from a mental illness. And only the gospel can help you.
I want to dive into the text message that Ashley raised to you. That teammate also alleged that she called authorities to let them know about this potentially dangerous situation. Somebody saying that they were going to kill themselves. There it is on your screen. Planning to die today is the exact reference. But when she called the authorities, she felt she wasn't getting a fair amount of urgency from those authorities. Your thoughts on that? And I do want to be extremely clear when I distinguish the authorities that I'm referencing now from the individuals who went inside that building and saved countless lives by their quick and heroic actions. I'm talking about the people that this basketball teammate first contacted about a perilous situation.
So here's the reality, Todd, is that we have a thing that I didn't come up with this term, but I think is an excellent term here, where we have institutional inbreeding. So we're looking at tactics, techniques, and procedures that law enforcement uses that are outdated. We've seen multiple times where there's been mass shooters and law enforcement has pulled responding officers out of the building, out of the shootout where they're pressing forward in order to put a hostage negotiator or a SWAT team. And in that time, many, many people are killed. It's the same thing here. Law enforcement has to change when the attackers change, and that is not occurring. Attackers are changing in their tactics and evolving, and law enforcement is not evolving. And I want to say this one other thing about what I was saying before is that we see that there's ideological beliefs that people have, but now there's ideological demands. And when we demand that young people look at themselves in certain ways, when we demand that law enforcement react in certain ways, those things may be based in something that is not reality. And we need to start looking at truth. We need to start asking, what's going on here and what tactics do we use now in these cases. And all of that is something that issues. If we want to have better response times, we want to save lives, we're going to have to look at this whole issue as a society and law enforcement and mental health. We're going to have to look at it totally different. We have seen in COVID that doctors in the medical industry are looking at health issues now based on politics. And I believe that's the problem that we have here, whether it's mental health, sexual identity, or tactics, techniques, and.
Unfortunately, there's an agenda I see to just keep letting these things happen, and to the point where they get away to take away our guns, take away guns. Okay. Take away guns from people who are gun owners. That's the way I see it. You don't want the police officers to be updated to help and to prevent these mass shootings. There's an agenda. Okay. Now I'll also address Mr. Packman. All right. What he said. I just think it was in poor taste. Being a Christian is a very challenging thing because your old man wants to rise up and but as a Christian, you're not yours, and it is something that you really have to grow daily with. And it's like being married to Jesus. Once you are married, you no longer can do what you want to do. You always have to think about the person. How would this make this person look? And you have to think about that before you react. It's not easy, but that's what it is to be a Christian. Okay. Okay, let's go. Let's get into this right now.
If you're angrier about my tweet regarding yesterday's shooting in Nashville, Tennessee, than you are about the fact that 6 people, including 3 kids, are now dead as a result of that shooting, then we have a real problem here. I support people who pray if they want to pray, praying if that's important to them. But it doesn't prevent shootings. And so when elected officials offer nothing more than thoughts and prayers, and then we have another shooting and another one, and they continue to offer nothing more than thoughts and prayers, they were the target of my ire, not the victims of the shooting. And that I stand by 100%. Anyone who knows me knows I would never blame the victims of a mass shooting for that mass shooting. Thoughts and prayers are fine, but we have to go beyond it.
So that's what he says. When these things happen as Christians, that this is something there's rules for the world and there's rules for the Christian. The Christian are, they are. Let me read Romans chapter 8, verse 36. As it is written, for thy sake we are killed all day long, we are counted as sheep for the slaughter. Christians really can't bear arms. I'm sorry, but it's a life of self-denial. And it is something that is that's there. You're bought with a price. I know people are going to get mad about what I said, but that is the truth. Okay. And that's just it. I'm sorry, hold on 1 minute. Okay. All right. That people are going to get mad, but you read that Bible, that's the price you pay for being a Christian. Your life is not your own. We're sheep for the slaughter. And that will be soon, one day, that will be a reality. Okay, especially when the Antichrist takes the scene. And I'm sorry, but nobody is getting out of this. You're not going to be having pre-raptured. Okay, the house of the Lord has to be judged first. Before Jesus cleans house, he has to clean up his own church, and the tribulation period is how he's going to do that. Persecution, anti-Christian campaigns will be made, and he'll be separating the wheat from the tares. That's basically what he will do. Okay, that's what he'll be doing. Okay. This is the world we live in. All right. And we have to be able to understand that. And we have a choice. Like I said, we have a choice what we are going to do with our lives. Either we're going to live holy or we're not. And the best thing these Christians that have survived is saying that leaving it in the Lord's hands. What else can they do? Shooter is dead. The shooter is in hell. It doesn't bring back their loved ones, but what can you do with the grief but to leave it in the Lord's hands? To continue to taste and see that the Lord is good. Prayers for the family.